Welcome to my final webinar for the UK Global Talent Visa for 2025. Really pleased to host my final webinar for you to help you throughout the Christmas break in case you wanted some more information in the lead up to the break. So my name is Michelle Hewer, and today we'll be talking about the UK Global Talent Visa in digital technology. So I'm an expert in the technology endorsement process, so I'll only be talking about the digital tech sector. What is the UK Global Talent Visa, the stage one application and process. I'll also just talk a little bit about the changes that happened this year, because there was quite a bit, and just talk a little bit about my package of support that I offer if you wanted to take this further. I'll give you some of my tips. I am a recipient of the Global Talent Visa, and I'm also a coach for the Global Talent Visa. So I'll give you tips wearing two different hats, and then I'll open the floor to the Q&A, so you can definitely ask any questions in the chat or the Q&A, and I'll get to it at the end. So if I haven't met you, and I've met some of you already, I can see some familiar names. My name is Michelle Hewer. I'm Vietnamese-Australian. I'm British, and I'm also Irish. So I have three citizenships from three countries. I am Vietnamese by background, and I'm a global talent visa coach. In 2016, I was endorsed with exceptional talent, and went on to get my visa. I was also the Tech Nation Visa Ambassador for a few years after I received my Global Talent Visa, because back then in 2016, not many people knew about this visa. So they asked us to be ambassadors to share our story and to talk about how we got our visa. And obviously that led on, resulted and I became a Global Talent Visa coach as a result. So in 2019, I received my indefinite leave to remain and British citizenship. So this is a fantastic path to settlement. Um, and I spent 7 years in the UK. I lived in Manchester, London, and Newcastle. So I spent a lot of my time in London, but I actually lived in the north of England. Really great tech communities in Manchester, London, and Newcastle. And I felt that just a big tip here is whatever you put into your community is what you will get out of it. So I was extremely active in Manchester and Newcastle, and very active in London when I went down to London, because I was working on my startup, going to lots of events, meeting lots of people, blogging about it, posting about it on social media. So people knew who I was in the wearable tech sector, because that was where my field of expertise was. I used to be a solicitor in Australia before I moved to the UK, so completely different, but got bitten by the entrepreneurship bug, and became a tech entrepreneur after winning a wearable tech hackathon. That's how my whole journey started. And I wrote about my journey on my Tech Nation Visa blog, and that's when my blog went viral, and that's how people started contacting me, and that's how I started talking about my journey. Because it, I don't want to scare you, but it's not a traumatic experience, but it's a challenging experience going through all this, because the stakes are so high. You want to move to the UK, you want to live in the UK, and you have to prove your worth, your value, everything, your achievements that you've done in the tech sector. And it really hinges upon someone saying, yes, you are an exceptional leader or an emerging leader in tech, and because of that, you can stay in the country if you're in the UK, or you can move to the UK. So yeah, it is a challenging process. I've coached over 1,000 tech entrepreneurs, senior execs, and tech employees over the years. As I said, I've been doing this for nearly 10 years. My success rate is 90%, and my clients have received a successful result within 3 to 27 hours. I mean, that not all my clients, that's my achievement. So once you submit, it can take up to 8 weeks. Average is about 3 to 4 weeks for a decision, but some of my clients have received really quick results. So that's a huge accolade for them and for me, because it's the worst part of it is waiting as well. So some of my clients have from big tech companies to smaller companies, startups, so you can see I work with people from who back then it was called WhatsApp before Meta took over, Sony, LinkedIn, Meta, Google, Zoom, Oracle, all those big startups. I help startup founders. I help UX designers, digital marketers, cybersecurity experts. Even though I help these people, everyone's story is different. And this is why I love what I do. Every single one of my clients have a story to tell, and that their story is different. Just like you have a different background to everyone else, and it should be told. And there's a way in which to tell a story. It's all about storytelling in this application. So I help my clients tell their story, meet the guidelines, and make sure that they hit all the points that's necessary so that they can be endorsed. So, over the years, before and after I received my visa, I was featured in a lot of articles, and these are the types of things that the assessor's looking for to, to kind of endorse you as someone who has national, international recognition, who builds, communities, or who's well known in the tech sector. So, I was quoted, interviewed, in big publications. I was a judge at an IoT hackathon. I was quoted in TechCrunch, interviewed in Business Leader. So these types of things are what the assessor's looking for. And it all started with my one blog that went viral when I shared my story because back then not many people knew about it. So I wrote about it and then it went viral. So it was a chance for me to tell my story. Not many people knew about it. And now a lot of people are sharing their story about how they got their visa because everyone is different. Everyone's background is different. So whoever, I encourage you to do research and read people's stories because it could resonate with your own story and you'll get ideas. So over the years, I've done this for nearly 10 years. I've not met any of my clients because I was working online really because it was easier. One, because you had to be based in a certain place, but a lot of my clients were overseas, like abroad, international. So it was just easier just to get online and to help them with their applications. And I was able to host 2 events last year in London to meet some of my clients and really had a lovely time because, as I said, it's a challenging process and just meeting everyone that received it and just giving them a big hug and just saying, welcome to the group. And, I'm here to support you. I was there to support you back then, but just seeing them all in person and just all these happy faces that, I was able to change their lives and they're in London making huge progress and they're all deemed exceptionally talented leaders. And you will be part of it too if I do help you. So this is just my alumni group. So these are just some of the changes that happened this year. So in January, there were some minor changes to the guidelines, and these are really important for you to have a look. When you look at the guidelines for TechNation, there is right at the end of the website for the TechNation visa page, there's a change log, and you need to constantly check that because when they make changes, they just put it in there. They don't tell anyone. It's just updated. So I check this every time I before I submit with my clients, but also during the process because you just want to make sure that all the changes are there and you're not caught by any of the changes before you submit. Or after you submit, then you realize there's changes. So you have to really be vigilant in that. In May, there was an immigration white paper that was published in 2025 to increase, and the main thing really was the ILR route would be increased from 5 to 10 years, and that's huge, that's massive, and that's what sent everyone into a frenzy. There's been some updates on that, and I'll talk about that in a second. In May, TechNation was selected as the continuing endorsing body because there was a tender for a new endorsing body to become the endorsing body for the TechNation visa, but TechNation got it, so they continue to be the endorsing body for the next 3 years. That was quite hard, because what if a new endorsing body would come in after 7 years, 8 years? We were a bit worried about that, but TechNation won the tender, so they're going to continue to be the endorsing body. In August, there were more changes to the guidelines, and they streamlined the process for the stage 1 application process. So before there was a 2 kind of stage approach where you would pay at the Home Office and upload your documents to the TechNation portal. But now, since August, you still pay at the Home Office and you complete your application form. But instead of uploading your documents to the TechNation portal, there is no longer a TechNation portal. You just email it to the Home Office, all 14 pieces of your evidence to the Home Office, which I don't know if I like it because it's an email. I'd rather upload it to a portal. When I applied, you had to print it all off and send it by snail mail. So it's that was quite cumbersome then. But yeah, they've just streamlined it now. You just email it, and yeah, they apparently it's going well. They accept it. No issues with storage. So that's the process now. And in November 2025, as a result of the immigration white paper that was published in May, there's a consultation paper out now. Due, I think if you have any responses to the survey, you need to do that by February of 2026, and it's called the Earned Settlement Consultation Paper. So the indefinite leave to remain route from 5 to 10 years, that does apply. They've made some proposals. What I was more interested in was, would the global talent visa be affected? Because at the moment we have an accelerated route to settlement for the global talent visa. It's 3 or 5 years to settlement, and in the proposal they it's proposed that there won't be any changes, which is really good. We don't want, obviously, it to be 10 years. I kind of knew that already because the Global Talent Visa is one of those prestigious visas, so I knew that they weren't going to change it, but to have that confirmed, really relieved. So the Global Talent Visa will continue to be an accelerated route to settlement for ILR. Okay. So, what is the Global Talent Visa? And that's what you're here for. It used to be called the Exceptional Talent Visa, which I got and applied for, but now it's called the Global Talent Visa. It's a special visa that was introduced to allow highly skilled entrepreneurs and talent in digital tech the ability to apply for the right and live and work in the UK for up to 5 years. It's a two-stage process. You have to be endorsed by Tech Nation by meeting the strict criteria before you can apply for your stage 2 visa. I only deal with stage 1, the endorsement by Tech Nation. Once you get the endorsement, then you go on and apply for your visa. It is more than a job application because it does hint at it looking like a job application where you need references and evidence of your work and things like that. But it is more than that, and I'll go through that in a sec. It is a lot and it can be quite overwhelming. So you might need to watch this video more than once. But I will try and make it as easy to follow as possible. And if you have any questions, please ask. So it's called kind of the hashtag TechNation Visa. It was when I was working on it on my application, because the Global Talent Visa is an umbrella visa, and there are different endorsing bodies for different sectors. Tech Nation is the endorsing body for the digital tech sector. There's the Arts Council, that is the endorsing body for arts applicants. There's the Royal College of Science and Engineering for engineering applicants. There's the architecture endorsing body for architects. There's the Arts Council is an endorsing body for fashion applicants. So there's lots of different sectors, different endorsing bodies. So this one is really Tech Nation for the digital tech sector. Okay. Benefits of the Global Talent Visa, and I can attest to this because I benefited from it. It gives you the freedom and flexibility to live and work in the UK for up to 5 years. You can apply for indefinite leave to remain and British citizenship. You can bring your dependents with you. You can register a UK limited company. You can work for a tech company without the need for a company sponsorship. Time in the UK under the skilled worker visa counts if you're on a tier 2. It's attached to you and it's cost effective. Well, the stage 1 process is cost effective. It's £561. It's only when you get to stage 2 is when it's in the thousands, because you have to pay the immigration health surcharge. But I just want to talk about this for a second, because I had a startup and I wanted to work for, wanted to break from my startup, and I wanted to work for someone else, like an organization, so I could get paid. And I could do that. I could apply anywhere I wanted because I had a visa that was attached to me. I didn't have to, ask them to help me or anything. So what I did was, during my startup, I worked for an accelerator for 3 months. And that was great because I got a break from my startup, but I was still in the startup community and ecosystem. I helped 10 startups prepare for China for their pitch demos and to get investment. So I was a community manager for that. After that, I then really enjoyed it, so I stayed in Newcastle because that's where it was. I then became a digital biz dev manager for a university. So I was still in the digital tech sector, but I worked for a university and they had no issue with my visa. So I did that, and then I went back to my startup. So it was really flexible and I could do that, and I didn't have to worry about visa issues because I had my own visa. But the real benefits comes to when you are endorsed and you get your visa, you have a bit more credibility, or you feel like you do because the Tech Nation have endorsed you as an exceptionally talented leader. You have more confidence. You can go for the promotion because you have a visa. It's your visa. It's not reliant on you staying at your company, and the fact that you have a visa from the company is great, but then you might be a bit scared that you don't want to ask for things because they're giving you a visa. Well, you've got your own visa now, so you can negotiate, you can have more opportunities. I had a client that as soon as she got her visa, she got like 3 or 4 promotions, and she got, she was, because she had the confidence to do it. She didn't care, because if they didn't give it to her, she could look elsewhere, even though she didn't want to. But it's almost like a mind game a little bit. You also become a role model for an accidental role model for people from your own countries. So it really helps to know that people from your own countries get this visa. They have, similar background, or they've worked for similar companies in your country. And it also gives you some sense of security because you know that it will lead to settlement. I had clients, as soon as they got their visa, they went and bought a house because they knew that it would lead to settlement. They can buy a house that I have to rent. So it's these kinds of things that are the real benefits of getting the visa. So just a few stats here that I've collected over the years. There are people from 90 different countries that are applying. There's a 54% endorsement rate, and that is 2020 stats. I have asked for a more recent up-to-date stats, but it doesn't look as high as 54 at the moment. I feel like it's lower, but I just need confirmation. That's just what I'm kind of seeing at the moment, but I need confirmation for that. But let's just go with 654%, which isn't great because it means 1 in 2 applications that are submitted are rejected. But my endorsement rate, or sorry, my success rate is 90%. And so there's been, loads of successful recipients over the years. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when I applied, and for the few years that the visa was out there, they had a cap on endorsement. So when I applied, they only endorsed 200 per year, which is crazy when you think about it. But that's what the cap was. But in the last few years, they took away that cap, so anyone that applies could potentially be endorsed. There's no more cap. There's a 75-25 ratio for men to women, because tech is dominated by males. So you would assume that it is higher for applications. And you can also join the alumni. If you are endorsed, you can join the Central Global Talent Visa Alumni, Tech Nation alumni, or obviously you'll join mine, just by virtue of me helping you. So I'll invite you to events and things like that. So this is the report in 2020. Don't let this put you off, but what they're seeing is what they saw in 2020 was the endorsement rate per country. So it's higher in, as you can see, Western countries than in these countries. So I do help a lot of people from up here, but I do help people from Australia, Canada, US, and China. Like, it doesn't matter. It's just, they're just giving you a breakdown. And then for these, this has been quite similar over the years as well. I've been keeping a track on that. And I know these are 2020, but it's pretty roughly the same. So people with biz dev skills, data scientists, digital design, software is down here, engineers. So there's lots of different skills. And just because it's a tech visa, you don't have to have a tech background, only that you worked for tech companies and you have some kind of skills, business and technical skills, or technical skills in the companies that you've worked for, in tech companies. Okay, so it includes business skills, is what I'm saying. These are stats that I've collected over the years. Okay, so you can see that it has increased in applications, obviously more applications with a 54% endorsement rate. It's about 7,000 now. So you can see during COVID, it was still quite busy, but also when Tech Nation did announce their closure back in 2022, there was a spike in applications submitted. Obviously, they didn't close. They were acquired by Founders Forum, so it's still going. So you can see applications are still going up. We're on track and to surpass last year's. So just in October, there were about 2,100 applications compared to last year. There's about 200 more than last year. So it's just going up. The competition is fierce. Lots of people applying. Okay, so this is the process. Stage one, you pay and register online at the Home Office, £561, and then you upload your documents through an email to the Home Office. And then it takes up to 8 weeks, and the Home Office will tell you if you are successful or unsuccessful. The average is about 3 to 4 weeks. Okay. Please bear in mind the dates, especially if your visa, that if you are in the UK and you have a current visa and that is expiring, just work backwards, okay? Because it can take up to 8 weeks. It might not, but it can. And I've had situations where clients have submitted and it did take 8 weeks, but a majority of them take about 3 to 4 weeks. If you're successful, great, you go to stage two, and then that's when you fill out your Home Office visa application and you pay your immigration health surcharge. 192 is the application fee. 1035 is the immigration health surcharge, and you have to pay that upfront per year per person. So it can be quite expensive. And if you are endorsed with talent, you can choose to only pay for 3 years, because after 3 years you can apply for ILR and you don't need to pay for the immigration health surcharge after that. But if you are endorsed with Promise, you need to pay for 5 years, and that's times five, and that's just for you. So just bear in mind that. If you are unsuccessful, you can appeal the decision. You've got 28 calendar days to appeal, and then the assessor, then it goes to a new assessor to review your application, the previous assessor's feedback, and then your appeal, and they will re-look at it based off what you've said, and then they'll make a decision. So it's 28 calendar days to appeal, 28 calendar days for them to respond to you, and they will tell you whether or not you're successful, and then you go to stage two. But if you're unsuccessful, if they uphold the decision from the previous assessor, we need to think about, do you reapply? You've got two pieces of feedback, and then yeah, do you reapply, or is that the end of your journey? So I help clients with that. The eligibility is, again, you've got technical or business skills, so you need to look at, which one do you fit in the most. And the thing that you have to look at as well, and I get a lot of people asking me about companies where they work for, say, White Pro, Capgemini, Tata Consultancy, those types of consultancy companies, they would be seen as outsourcers, consultancy companies. So anything to do with consultancy, they're not eligible. So yeah, I have a lot of questions about that. But as soon as I know that you're working for a consultancy, you're not eligible, unfortunately. That the assessors want you to be working for companies that are product led. Go through that in a second. There are two categories in which you can apply for. You can apply for talent or promise. Talent is if you've got more than 5 years experience and you're later in your career, you can prove your leadership through your skills and achievements. And these skills and achievements should be internal in the company and external outside of your company. They're senior leaders, managers, CTOs, CEOs. Okay. But if you've got less than 5 years experience, you can go for the promise route. That means that you're earlier in your career and you can prove your potential to be a leader through your skills and achievements, and that you are more kind of in line with the student, graduates, and junior in your career. The criteria is a little bit similar, pretty much same, but which category you apply for matters, because I have a lot of people that say, I've got 10 years experience, but I want to apply for Promise. And I'm like, well, no, you can't, because you've got more than 5 years experience. You should be going for Promise, for talent. And the benchmark for talent is higher, yes, because it should be, because you should have more experience. You can't be competing against graduates, because you're definitely not. And I guess it's just a way of maybe people saying, look, I don't think I can meet the criteria, so I want to go for the lesser one. But the assessors will know that. And if you do that, they might say, we don't care. We're going to assess you under talent anyway. So pick the right one, because I want you to be in the right mind frame, have the right mindset to apply under talent or promise. Okay. And you need to be working for a product-led digital technology company. That's defined as a company that provides a proprietary digital technical service product platform hardware as their primary revenue source. So essentially, it's just companies that develop their own products, okay, that they can sell by license or subscription to their customers. So it's not anyone that develops products for their customers so the customers can then white label it, and just rebrand it to their own. That's a consultancy or outsourcer. So just make sure that you look at your company and say, well, does my company develop products? Is there a consultancy arm? Because sometimes it is, and that's fine, but we have to make sure that the consultancy arm is not more than 50% of their revenue stream, but that the product development is 50%, more than 50% of the revenue stream. Okay, so that's a big one. And also, you can't assume the assessors to know that your company is product led. You need to explain it. Your references need to refer and say what that company is in your CV. You should have a summary of what your companies are that you've worked for, because you could be in different countries, which most of my clients are, and they may know what their companies do, but people in other countries may not, assessors may not. So this is why I don't assume that the assessor knows what your company is and what it does. You need to explicitly explain it. You need to hand them all the information on a silver platter. They shouldn't be researching you. They will look at your application and assess you what you have presented. It's your job to convince them. Okay, so you need to complete 15 documents, and these consist of 5 mandatory documents, which is your CV, which is 3 pages, your personal statement, which is 1,000 words, and 3 letters of recommendations by experts in your field. And yes, they can be by your managers, okay, but you just have to be careful that, again, it's not a job application. They can talk about how they know you and the work that you did, but they also have to say how and why they think that you are a recognized leader in your field, not just an internal company leader, but external leader in the industry. This is why it just gets a bit grey and a bit different. It's not black and white. It's not just references from managers. They need to be by experts, industry leading experts. So yes, your CEO of your company is senior, but what else do they do outside of their job leading the company? Do they speak at events? Do they write articles? Are they known as leaders in the field, or are they just known as leaders within their own company? Okay, so that's something you really have to look at. Another thing is they don't always have to be your managers. They can be other people. Like, for example, I co-founded a women in tech community group, and I had loads of members, and I co-founded it with my co-founder, and it wasn't anything to do with my startup or the jobs that I did, but it had to do with community enhancing things. So I asked my co-founder, who was a leading industry expert in the industry as well, to write a letter for me. But that didn't have anything to do with my work. It had to do with my community voluntary work. So they can be your experts as well. So it's not just your managers. In fact, I don't want just your managers to be your experts. I want like a well-balanced application that does include your managers, but also other people that can attest to other work that you've done for the tech sector. And then after the 5 documents, you can also, or you must submit 10 documents that fulfill the mandatory and optional criteria. Okay, so this mandatory and optional criteria I'll go through in a sec, but you have choices. So there's 5 mandatory and optional criteria, of which you select 3 out of 5. Okay, one of them is mandatory, so you have to select that. But there's optional here, there's 4, and you only select 2 out of the 4. Okay, so you apply for a category, exceptional talent or promise, so pick one or the other. And then the first one, the mandatory criteria, is the leadership criteria. And then you choose 2 out of 4 optional criteria. You've got 10 documents to choose to submit against these criteria. So if there's 3 criteria, you would put 3 examples, 3 documents, 3 pages each for each criteria. So say, for example, you were picking the mandatory criteria, which you have to. You need 3 documents or 3 pieces of evidence to showcase your leadership or potential leadership in the field. 3. Then if you choose 1 and 2, you need at least 3 here and 3 here. That means it's 9 documents, but you do have a 10th document to submit. So I would choose one of these 3, the one that you're strongest in, to put the 10th document in. So basically, if you're stronger in leadership, go 4, 3, and 3, which makes it 10. Okay. Right. So after you choose your leadership, you then choose your innovation, proof of innovation, proven track record of innovation. You can show your voluntary activities in the tech sector. Bearing in mind, you need 3 examples each. Or you can show your significant contributions or impact in the tech sector when you're an employee of a product-led digital technology company. And 4, you can show academic contributions. And this is not about you completing your master's thesis or PhD thesis. It's to do with work that you've done with a researcher or academic to showcase your expertise in the field. Your master's and PhD is really for your degree. It's not, to enhance the tech sector at all. So, for example, I worked with a university that helped me with my wearable tech glove that I was developing, and I had researchers to help me in my startup. So I got a professor to write a letter for me because I provided the commercial impact for my gloves, and they provided the academic research on how it would work and what it would look like. So, or if you were writing any journals or articles, and they were supervising you and that got, picked up and published, you would, but that has to have nothing to do with your master's or PhD thesis. It's an extra piece. It's in a journal or something. Okay. So let's talk about the leadership criteria. It's the first one, it's mandatory. So you need to show that you've been recognized as a leading or potential, that's the promise, talent in the digital tech sector. And it's not just about your leadership within your company, it's about your external leadership as well outside of your company. So it's really about a leader of exceptional talent or promise must show extraordinary ability by sustained, so that's consistent, or emerging national or international recognition in your field. So that's got nothing to do with what you do in your own company because that's within the company. This is external to the company. So the individual will be able to demonstrate a level of expertise or emerging expertise which places them at the forefront of their respective field in the digital technology sector. So these are examples of leadership evidence that you can submit. So there's internal versus external leadership, which I've broken down. And that's just from doing it, obviously, with clients and from reading the criteria quite. I've scrutinized it. So you can show organizational product and thought leadership. You can show that you've had, marketing and biz dev and revenue, customer growth, commercial success. So that's internal leadership. You can show open source projects if you're technical. That's external. Industry awards, not company awards. Industry awards, external. Speaking engagements, that has nothing to do with the products that you work on or promote for your company. These speaking engagements are about your thought leadership in the field, not about you promoting your company. Those are external leadership. If you are published in a major trade publication about your thought leadership, not about you promoting your company, that's external. Commanding a high salary, that's internal. But if you pick that, you have to pick the OC2 criteria. Okay, and I'll go through that in a second. So just be careful about the high salary because people think high salary is an easy one to pick, which it is. But now they've said if you choose that, you have to prove that you do voluntary contributions to your community. And what is high salary? I get asked this question all the time. If you were to negotiate a new contract with a new company, and they offer you a salary, how do you know if it's high? How do you know if it's going to be good? Yes, you look at what you were earning before, but that doesn't really help because you don't even know if that's high. It's just what you were earning before. What I would do and what I suggest and what I have done in the past with me when I was working as a lawyer was I was looking at what was the industry offering. Okay, you look at what the average salary is in the industry, and then you benchmark yourself against the average industry by looking at reports. And as I said, you need to present this evidence for the assessor. They're not going to know what high salary is. You have to prove it to them. So have a look at any salary insights companies that offer this information, and it's all free, it's out there, and say, well, this report says that for someone of my level and skill that works for this particular type of company, they're earning, say, £70,000 per year. But I'm on 95. Plus I get bonuses, plus I get equity, plus I get all this. So my package is 200, say. I mean, say, okay, so it's just an example. So that's why my salary is high. But if I didn't say all that and said, well, what's the average? The assessor's not going to know that that is high. They're going to say, so what? How do I know if that's high? You're telling them it's high because of these reasons. So this is what I need you to think about when you're doing your application is you have to look at it from an assessor's perspective, not from your own. You don't want the assessor to determine whether or not your salary is high. You need to tell them that it's high, okay, and build up that evidence. And this is where my legal background comes in because I'm used to speaking to a judge and advocating for my clients, and the judge needs to be convinced. And I need to just tell the judge what I've found. I've done all the work for them. Here's my case. You then decide based on everything that I've given you. Okay. So that's what I need you to constantly think about in your application. Panel speaker, you can showcase that you're a panel speaker. If you're a judge, we're talking about judges, if you were asked to judge any competitions, because this type of stuff is about them asking for your expertise. What do you think? What's your views? That showcases some kind of leadership skills. And if you've led any large technology-led industry initiatives, that would be considered leadership. Okay. Um, Self-published articles like Medium and LinkedIn and what else? Any at your own website. Those aren't usually acceptable because these are platforms that you have control over. What they want is for you to look at third-party platforms where you have to go through a checking system and someone else publishes your work, and that publication is going to be a good one. Another question, how do I know if it's a good publication? Well, you have to go and do some research and have a look at their media kit and see if they do have a good following, what's their audience, who do they reach? You need to present all this to an assessor because they say, well, we want a reputable media publication that has, it's really, valued in the industry. Well, you need to present that. You need to say why it's valued. You need to say, this is a really reputable publication. Some publications are like Forbes and the regular ones, but not everyone's on that. So you need to present that case. So examples are letters of support, news clippings, awards, promotional material, lines of code, articles, media and press, books, anything that you're featured in and any interviews that you've done. So those are some of the examples. I could go on a lot about this, and I will talk about why I go on a lot about this in a second, but those are some examples of leadership. It takes me on to talking about personal branding because you might already go, oh my gosh, this is a lot. Because it talks about your external leadership, not just about your internal company leadership. This is what your internal company leadership is what you should be doing anyway, because you get paid to do that. The Global Talent Visa is about more than getting paid to do what you do every day. It's about you showing your thought leadership, stepping up and out, and showing your expertise to the industry, not just to your company. And this is about your personal brand. What is it? It's an intentional effort to create a public perception of you by positioning yourself as a leader or authority in your field. And everyone's like, it's bragging. I don't like bragging about, things, but it's not about bragging. You're highlighting your strengths, you're establishing your reputation, you're building trust, and you're communicating your unique attributes that bring you to your current or desired industry. You're telling people what you know, and that's because of where you've worked. And you will have accumulated so much knowledge. And I know you're probably thinking, everyone else has that knowledge, but you have to bring something different to the table. Not everyone has the same experience and level of expertise as you. Okay. And you just need to keep talking about it to your industry, not just to your internal company. People want to know what you're talking about. People want to know what you think. Okay. And it's not about self promotion, it's raising your profile and sharing your knowledge. Okay. Thought leadership is about sharing your insights and ideas and a unique point of view that provokes new ways of thinking, sparks discussions and debates, and inspires action. A true thought leader knows a topic inside and out, has formed a clear, unique, and defensible point of view about it, and freely shares that perspective. I knew nothing about the wearable tech industry. I was a lawyer working in Australia, very hands off, you know, background supporting all my clients. When I became a tech entrepreneur, I started learning about wearable tech and I started talking about it because I thought, well, if I'm learning about it, other people might be as well. So I shared what I knew. I went to lots of events and I shared all this stuff that I was learning. I was very careful about what I shared about what I was doing with my own company because and my product, because that was very confidential. I was still in the development stages, but I still wanted to tell people what I was doing. So what I did was, I rather than talk about my product, which I kind of did, I just said like, this is what I'm building. I didn't tell them how I was doing it, but I then changed it and talked about the industry that I was in, what was coming out, what should people look at, what interesting things are experts saying about the wearable tech industry, IoT, what's coming out. That's what I kind of did. And that's what resonated with a lot of people. And then I all of a sudden became an expert in wearable tech. And it was only because I was sharing the stuff that I was learning, okay, from my own perspective. And that's not bragging. I didn't feel it was bragging, it was sharing. Okay, and that's what I want you to think about as well, is sharing your knowledge and expertise. Okay, because of what you've seen and what you've heard, and you can interview experts and all sorts of things. It's all this stuff that you've gained, and you should share it. So, the reason why I'm really passionate about leadership is because I developed a leadership in tech course, but only because I had to do it myself. And I did it in 3 years, which is a long time, but obviously it's going to take you less than that, because I unpack it and I explain how I did it, but explain how you can do it as well, just to so that you know that it's not just about a job application. It's about more than that. It's about you showcasing your thought leadership. And if you really want this visa, if you want to get away from the skilled worker visa, and you want to get away from all that, and you want your own visa, you need to work really hard for it. And how you work hard for it is to focus on your leadership, your external leadership. It's not just going to help you with the global talent visa application, it's going to help you with any job applications as well, because the job market is super, super competitive at the moment. And if you show them what you can do in your job, that's fine. So is everyone else. But if you show thought leadership, it's going to be a bit different to what they're already reading. Okay, they're reading like thousands of CVs. Okay, but if you show any kind of thought leadership in this space, and you're being interviewed, and you're being a bit more well known, they're going to know you before you even enter the room. You're going to show them, some examples of you showcasing your thought leadership, not just working at your company, which you are. That's fine, but that's what everyone is doing. So again, so this is about the global talent visa leadership criteria, but it'll also help you with your job applications and what you can do more for the industry. So I've got loads of examples, loads of videos about it. Okay, it talks about internal thought leadership, it talks about external thought leadership, how to build your thought leadership. I've got some workshops, I've got some real life examples from my clients who have structured their leadership examples, and you can see what they've done. And it's quite inspirational. My clients have been really kind enough to let me share this with you, and you can certainly take inspiration from it. I also, if you do purchase this package, I also offer a free 45-minute coaching call about your leadership strategy as well, because there's so much out there. We need to figure out what you're an expert in, and how are you going to showcase that. Okay, so we'll talk a lot about that, but this is why I'm so passionate about it. Not to sell you the course, but it's so important, not only for the global talent visa, but also for your own job hunting prospects as well. Okay, let's talk about the 4 criteria, which you need to select 2 out of 4. The first one is innovation, and you can select this if you want. It's a proven track record for innovation or examples as a founder or senior exec of a product-led digital technology company, or as an employee working on a new digital field. You can, if you have any patents that are granted, you can put that under this criteria. A lot of my clients, and before the changes in August, I want to say, they did accept pending patents, but now it must be granted, even if you're promised. So unfortunately, that's just a bit of it's a harder benchmark to cross. Okay, if you don't have patents, which a lot of people don't, there are other things that you can show. You can show evidence of innovation or product development, proof of product in the market, okay, and associated traction through revenue. So they're very interested in the products that you were involved in, either through building or selling, because this is not just about technical skills, it can be about business skills. Okay, and evidence of domestic or international sales should show customer numbers. So anything that you've done to help speed up the launch of the product, and then selling of the product as well. So that shows your innovation. Okay, you need 3 examples of that. The second example is proof of recognition for work outside your immediate occupation that contributes to the advancement of the field. And this is the one that is connected to the high salary one for mandatory criteria. They want you to do work outside of your day-to-day job that advances the sector, okay, like community work, voluntary work, speaking gigs, mentoring, but the mentoring has to be physical. They used to accept online, but now it has to be physical. And you can't mentor at universities or startups. So if you speak at events, about your thought leadership, you can put it under this criteria as well as leadership, but they have to be different evidence. So you can't use, say, if you spoke at a conference about your thought leadership, you can't use that evidence under leadership and under this criteria. It has to be two separate examples. Okay. So this is, if you were maybe interviewed in a magazine, okay, that showcases your thought leadership. Well, how does it advance the field? Well, the magazine should be a tech publication. If you can get evidence of how many hits your interview got from the magazine, and you'll, again, ask the magazine, they will be able to tell you the metrics. You can't expect the assessor to know or ask them. So you need to ask them, find out the metrics, and that would be considered advancing the field. If you have like 1,000 hits, you're sharing your knowledge and thought leadership to the industry. Okay. And it can't be anything that's sponsored or paid for by the company, because that would be you're promoting your company's work, which is your immediate occupation. It needs to be outside of that. Third optional criteria is you have to make significant impact. So you can make significant impact through technical, commercial, entrepreneurial contributions as the founder or senior exec or employee of a product-led digital technology company. So commercial is pretty easy. It's about money. Okay, so how much money did you make for the company from the work that you did by working there? Or what products did you launch and produce? And entrepreneurial contributions, that can mean lots of different things. So you would have to think of those things, especially if you are an entrepreneur, getting, pipeline, getting ready to pilot products, or getting lots of potential leads, and, anything to do with entrepreneurial contributions. It could be anything. Think about how you're going to present this evidence. What they're looking at is impact to the company, customers, partners, or industry. But if you've got any publicly available information that connects you to the work for your company, then that will be really good. So if your company has any reports or anything external or public that names you and connects you to the work that you did with them, then you can definitely use that. Okay. They do focus on commercial a lot in this criteria, but if you can show a bit of both, commercial, maybe technical and entrepreneurial, mix it up, that would be really good. And fourth, academic contributions, which I've already spoken about. You have to demonstrate exceptional ability or examples in the field by academic contributions through research published or endorsed by an expert, and that's a letter from a professor. If you've been involved in any published journals, any R&D grants, innovation vouchers, academic research, letters of support from professors, and it doesn't include master's or PhD thesis. Okay, and you need 3 examples of that. So that's just the criteria. So I ran through that, and I hope that makes sense. I'm running out of time, but I'll quickly go through some of the changes. So these are some of the changes that happened this year. You might not be that interested because you're now way past those changes. One thing I do want to really focus on, and you can have a quick read of that, you need to have a 3-page limit. There's a 3-page limit on the each piece of evidence you're providing. And a lot of people think it's not enough, which it isn't, but you have to make do. I had a 2-page limit with mine. That's one of the changes from back then. But people do put too many screenshots on the one page if they're trying to explain something. I've done 2 screenshots or maybe 3 max. If there's too many screenshots, they're going to say, no, you've now gone way above. You should only, make sure that we can read it for one. And if there's too many pages squeezed into the one page, they're not going to like that. So just be mindful that, if you're going to do that, make it as low as possible. So maybe 2 screenshots or 3 max. Don't put too many, because that means that you're breaching the guidelines, and they will reject you on that basis because they can't read it. You've breached the guidelines. They're like, I'm not going to bother. Okay. Another thing, a big one that I've seen recently is ChatGPT. I know we're working in tech and ChatGPT is tech, but they don't want you to use ChatGPT. So I've had an instance where a client came to me to help him with his application that was rejected. And I didn't help him with the application. He wanted me to come in and help him appeal the decision. And when they do that, it sometimes is a bit too late by then because I didn't help them with the application. But sometimes I can help with the appeal. And one of the feedback that the assessor said was, it looks like you've used AI tools to help you with preparing your application. So this goes towards the credibility of your application. And they had a number of other things that the assessor didn't like. And the assessor said, on this basis, we do not endorse. So that's a real shame. It looks like the assessor's going is potentially running applications through a chat GPT or an AI tool checker. And so that's a risk. If you do use chat GPT or Claude or any of those other tools, you may want to run it through a chat GPT or one of those checkers to see, because some are 90% and some are 10%, some are 5%, just so that you know that, the assessors might be doing this and you shouldn't be using ChatGPT anyway. But if you need it for inspiration, obviously, if you're going through a mental block and you need something to start you off, then fine, but don't use ChatGPT because I've seen feedback that says rejected on that basis. Okay. Um, a lot of my changes are in my YouTube video. So I've got a YouTube video where I go through some of these changes. So if you want to have a look at my YouTube video. I do that after every change so that, if you're in the middle of preparing your application and there's a change, I will just pick them out and explain that. So my top tips is your application here is a chance to tell your unique story. As I said, it's about storytelling. It's one thing just saying what you did, but build it into a story because someone has to read this, and it's about 80 pages, the document at the end of the day, and someone has to read it and mark you on it. And you want to make it as interesting as possible and visually appealing and make it, really interesting because they're going through so many applications. And I know because I've been an assessor, not for this, but I've been an assessor for funding applications and things like that when I was, involved in some tech funding grants. They asked me to be an assessor. And, human nature is if it's not interesting, it's hard to read, and then you just annoy the assessor and all those things. So just put yourself in the assessor's shoes and think, is this too small, is it too big, am I making sense, all that kind of stuff. And that's what I do, is I help check that. Your tech network is your net worth because you will need people to support you in this application. So really just build your tech network and maintain those networks because you don't know when you're going to need them, and this process requires you to ask for help. It's also about self-promotion. And as I say, don't think that as a dirty word. It's if you don't promote yourself in your evidence, the assessor's not going to know how great you are. And I'm good at that because it's not me anymore. It's about building you up and writing in a way that emphasizes your strengths and achievements. Being eligible is one thing. Meeting the criteria requires a strategy in putting together all 15 documents. So that's really important that your documents are really clear. And if any documents relate to other documents in your evidence, we cross-check, cross-reference, and all that kind of stuff so that, the assessor's not lost at all. Contact me sooner rather than later if you need support. I do reviews as well before you submit because, as I said, sometimes people just submit and then come to me once it's been declined. And that just makes it a bit harder for me, and just there are certain things that I could have picked up before you've submitted. So please do have a look at asking me to help you before you submit. And also check the change log for updates because that's very important. You don't want to be caught because, like, for example, that patent change, it used to accept patent pending, and then it changed to patent granted. So what if you had lots of patent pendings under your innovation criteria? Once you submit that and the guidelines change, that's it. So yes, these little things that you need to watch out for, and obviously I make sure that you don't go through that. That's my job to check. Don't assume the assessor knows anything. Assessors also don't click on links, and that's in the guidelines. Do not put links. If you put links, it needs to have a screenshot next to it because it's sourcing where that screenshot came from. And assessors assess you, but they also assess your experts because there's no interview in this process. They have to go by what you've written, what your experts have written, and they want to feel like, and I say this all the time, they want to feel like they know, like, and trust you. Those are the three things that you want your application to come out. They feel like they know you through the stories you tell and how well you present your evidence. They want to be able to feel like they like you, okay? That you're not, you're not bragging, you're showcasing your expertise and experience, okay? And trust. Trust is a huge thing. As soon as they ran through the ChatGPT checker, the trust is gone. It was completely ChatGPT or AI tools, trust is gone. Again, with your experts, have them put their letterheads on there and make sure it looks good and everything's clearly done, marked, it's visible. It shows credibility and trust. Okay, because again, they can't see you, they're just reading about you, and no interview. So they can't make those decisions only by looking at what you've presented. So I do help with some of these questions. Am I eligible? How do I present my documents? What's relevant? Who can be my experts? How do I show my innovations impact that I'm an exceptional leader? Where do I start? I've received an unsuccessful result. What should I do? Should I appeal? And I help with all these things. Okay. I have a website. You can have a look at it. It's very comprehensive. Hopefully you can follow it. It's very simple, straightforward. All the tabs are there. Have a look and have a gander. My eligibility questionnaire is the big one that if you want me to assess your eligibility, you have to complete the questionnaire because that's how I know a little bit about you and your background before I assess your eligibility. These are some of my packages of support. Again, leadership in tech course. I do have a DIY membership area where I have templates and things like that, which you can make use of. My strategy session. So once you feel like, okay, I might have some good examples, have a strategy session with me because it's a plan. It's a plan of attack on how to approach your application. The output is you'll have a roadmap of what your application is going to look like, who are your experts, what your documents are going to look like, what are they going to say about you, what evidence are you going to put against each criteria, what criteria we're selecting. So it's kind of like a good plan. My strategy session also includes access to all these as well. My review package, so that's 4.5, but that includes the strategy session and all that. So I do the strategy session with you and I review halfway through you preparing your documents, and then I will review it when you finish preparing. So this is part support. So you do a lot of the heavy lifting and then I'll come in and review, every now and then to make sure you're on track and to pick up any mistakes that I see. Okay, and that's usually about the guidelines. Have you followed the guidelines? And then my final premium coaching package is 6,500, where I do a strategy session with you, constantly review, but we do this together. I will help draft your documents. I edit as well with you. I'm in there with you. So that's full support and it's teamwork in this one. And you get support every week until you submit. And then I help with appeals as well. So if you've been rejected, come to me and I can help you with the appeal or help you with your options. Okay, so final bonus tip is start working on your external thought leadership now. You can never have too many, okay, but just start now and also be careful of when you do it because assessors do say that they will look at the dates of when you do things and when you submit because they will say, and this has been feedback is, why are you doing all these things or your external thought leadership and then you've submitted? Is it for the purposes of the Global Talent Visa application or is it actually because you are a leader that you're doing this? So please just look at the timing. Does it support the timing of your application? And they're very cognizant about that because the feedback is there that I've seen. But this external thought leadership really does help you improve your confidence in your job prospects anyway, but it also helps with your GTV. So have a think about that. And I've been coaching so many people that they're not ready to apply for the Global Talent Visa Stage 1 yet because they haven't done any external thought leadership. So I'm coaching them through that process on how they can build that. And then the Global Talent Visa is a long-term strategy, but you've got to build your external thought leadership now. Okay. That's it. And I hope I haven't lost you. It is a lot of information. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so I can have a look at some of the questions that you've asked. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop recording because I want to keep this maybe a safe space that you can ask any questions you want and I can answer them. So I'm going to stop recording. I nearly stopped this webinar actually. Sorry, I'm going to stop recording now and then I'll get to your questions.